I love this world so much. Oh, but okay, well, I guess we're already talking now. So it's Easter weekend. Oh, and I was thinking we could talk about rising to the occasion. Yeah,
The second
because
coming of
it's like
Jesus.
we have these holidays. We have Christmas every year, right? We have Easter every year, and it's always it's like lip service to certain ideals. You know, like Christmas. What's the ideal that people use to justify Christmas?
Coming together, family.
Well, Jesus being born, no?
Yeah, but what's the ideal behind it?
Celebrating some
Oh,
idea.
giving. It's
Right.
just
Giving.
spirit of
Giving, right?
giving.
Being
Yeah.
giving
Mm.
and being grateful for shit. Okay. So that's the ideal we're supposed to be living in that. But what is Christmas actually? It's you just buy a bunch of shit, you give gifts, you expect people, and then you spoil your children. And I say you, and I mean everybody collectively, we're spoiling our children. It's like with our kids, we don't do that. But I mean, like we went to this little farm place yesterday. We took our kids, we went with Drake, and like they wanted to do the little panning for gyms. We did that. They wanted to, get the tickets and go get the Easter eggs. We did that. It's not like we're like, no, it's not your birthday. It's not Christmas. Like if they want something and it's practical, if it's not like something that would harm them, we do it. We spend the money on them. We do whatever it is. So they and it's not like we're always constantly doing that either. It's not like, and you notice that, Drake, they're not asking constantly to buy stuff.
Right.
You
Yeah.
see, but my point is we're not depriving them from things of enjoying things and having things and being bought whatever things that they want or need, but we're also not participating in the stuff that would cause a lot of dysfunction. Like I remember when I was a kid in Christmas time, it's like all I cared about was just getting those presents or like hopefully getting some cash from people or something, you know what I mean? And like opening the presents. And then did you all experience that? Like you would open your presents and you immediately like just not care anymore and like be disappointed and like want something
Yeah, and then
else or
maybe eat some like cookies and dessert, and then it was like, okay, I want to like not be here.
yeah. I guess you guys
Yeah.
did you guys celebrate Christmas growing up, Pastor?
Nah.
Yeah.
When I was really young, actually,
Is there like
depends
a
on religion
Muslim
though.
equivalent thing?
There's Eid. So at the end
Eid?
of Ramadan,
Uh-huh.
when after you fast for day
And they
by
call
day,
it
20
Eid,
days.
like you're eating. It's like we
Eid,
fasted,
something.
now we can eat.
Now we can eat.
But basically, yeah, like you go and you just there's different facilities, like a big recreational center that they'll have a big fair and all the kids will go play and you'll just eat a bunch of food and give gifts and all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay, so it's kind of similar, but obviously, regardless, you're still in at least being in Canada or being in the U.S.
I
Regardless, even
mean,
if you're a Muslim family, you're still embedded within the culture of Christmas
yeah,
and shopping and all
exactly.
that stuff.
And when I was young, like 5 and less, I remember, of course, Christmas. My parents wanted to give that to us, right?
Okay, yeah,
I
exactly,
found out they're
right.
big fucking liars. Oh no, my older brothers told me. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm just gonna
Told you
deceive.
what?
I'm like, they told me Santa Claus isn't real. I'm like, let me just lie to my parents to get these gifts, dog. After they found out that I knew they weren't real, Christmas stopped, and it was the worst. I should have kept lying to my parents.
That's interesting. If you find out they're not real,
It's like, oh, you don't have to do Christmas anymore.
that's fascinating.
Yeah, isn't it?
Because I don't know if we mentioned it on the last episode or not, but remember I was telling y'all about Max talking to that girl at the playground,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and she was playing with unicorns, and he was telling her like unicorns aren't real, and she was getting upset about it, and he kept coming back to me like, she really thinks they're real. Like, can you tell her they're not? And I was like, well, me telling her they're not and her accepting that because I told her isn't her understanding that they're not real. So you're going to have to explain to her so she understands they're not real. And I could overhear him talking to her, and she was like, at one point, she said, "Well, now I can't have fun anymore." Like, like as if because unicorns aren't real, she can't play with unicorns or something. But it kind of made me think of that same thing you just said. Like now Santa Claus isn't real. Well, can't get any more presents. Like what's behind that?
Yeah, it's pretty fucked. It's pretty fucked.
Why
I never
is
It's
thought
like a
about
whole
it.
complex.
why does
right
it have
there.
to be something that you believe in to get it? It's and then you think about it, and I'm looking at what your parents were probably considering, which was, well,
He's
I mean,
grown
on the
up now,
one hand,
basically.
huh?
It was the point of like, oh, he's grown up now. He doesn't need to
Mm.
keep doing this.
So then what is that saying? Like I was giving you toys and stuff because
Because you were
You
naive
weren't-
and
Because
stupid.
you were young.
But now
Yeah.
you have to face the cold reality of the world that as you get smarter, you don't get gifts anymore.
but it's like they created
Don't
that.
love you. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we created the point that what if you just never did it? Like there would be no cold reality, it would just be reality. You know, like with our kids, we explain to them, we have money, these things cost money, we spend it on things. You don't have a way of earning money. As you get older, you can make businesses, you can do all kinds of stuff, you'll be able to create money yourself. Like, so there is no, oh, well, we have to lie to them and pretend magically like they're getting stuff. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But then there's that point of if it's not, if there isn't this sort of belief element,
Mhm.
it's like
Yeah.
training you to believe in order to get something. And then we wonder why we have this fucked up world where people just magically hope things are going to change and all this stuff, right? Which leads us to the whole bigger picture of Christianity, which is not obviously the only religion, but it's in a lot of ways it's interesting because it's the religion that most clearly has some of the best principles very blatant and obvious. And you know, and I know like sometimes people like Muslim or other religions will say like, oh, but our religion has all these things too, but not as explicitly. And plus, I mean, like with Islam, for example, you can't be, you have to believe certain exact specific things,
Mhm.
right? Whereas with Christianity, there's almost like there's more flexibility. You can kind of, as long as you believe in Jesus.
My cousin sent me some videos. She had sent me this. There's some movie on Netflix that has to do with like some Indian dude marrying some Nigerian lady, and their family is like racist, and it causes problems in their relationship because they're not being
Wait,
honest
who is
about
the
it.
racist one?
Both of their families, the Nigerians, they want to keep the culture, and the Indian people want to keep the culture. So,
But racism is prejudice plus power, and there, since none of those people are white in that situation, I don't understand how what they're doing is racist.
what power
It seems like
hierarchy
they're
are
just
they
perfectly
benefiting
fine
from?
with the,
But basically, she sends me that, and the assumption is because you know we have a Guyanese family and Melat's black, so therefore there's got to be some racial tensions that are going to fuck up our family. I'm like, no, they're like, don't worry. Thanks for sending me. Things are fine though. So then she sends me these other videos of. So I send her because she has a son, and I send her this video of. I was like, if she's gonna do that to me, I might as well take the opportunity and send her something that I think is
Fuck
valuable.
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So I sent her this video because she has a young son, about 9 years old, about the war on boys and how they're treated in schools and things like that. I was like, cool, like highly recommend your recommendation. And then she took the opportunity to send me back the videos, and it was 2 videos. One of them was 1 minute, and one of them was 4 minutes. And I appreciate that she took the time to send me the times of them. And I wasn't gonna watch them, but I was like, why not? You know, like
Why not?
she watched the video. I'll watch the video. See what she said.
Sure.
You know, see what she said. And it's from both videos were from a mufti, like a teacher of Islam,
Okay.
and both of them, like the titles were like, why you should pray, and the second one was like lazy, like how to pray anyways. And it was basically just like just fucking force yourself to do it. Like I know you don't understand why, and this is not what he was saying, right? He was like selling it, right? But it's just like it's
But when you
just
say
one
he
of
was
the
selling
things.
it,
just do it.
when you say he was selling it, what do you mean?
I mean, specifically, he was trying to convince you of just do this at the very least. You know, just get up,
Okay.
do it quickly. And I know he was like, I know. Actually, that's not the point of prayer. Like, you're not supposed to just do it quickly. You're supposed to be present, all that stuff. But like, it's better than not doing it, because if you go
Why?
from 1 prayer to 2 prayers a day, and that's my point. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, then what the fuck is the point of prayer? It's literally, you know how you said it's just lip service, right? It's like within the video she sent me. I'm not saying this is all Islam. I don't know if it's a cultural thing, but generally speaking, what I've seen throughout Islam and what was imposed on me, etc., it's like it does not come from the point of here's why. You might find out little bits and pieces about the benefits of fasting, like when you're 18, and you might find out the benefits of taking some time to slow down and you know, relax a little bit and do your prayers. In other words, take some time for yourself or something like that. Like these really byproduct kind of benefits, right? Of like just, you know, slowing down, taking a break throughout your day, like way later. But really, it was just like just do it. Like God just wants you to do it. It's the least you can do to pray to the Almighty. And it was just so funny because I was like, I couldn't see this before. The difference between being forced to do something and doing it because you understand the benefit of it. Like doing it because you have to versus doing it because you understand the benefit of it. And all the videos, because I know where she's at, right? All the videos she sent me is basically like, just at least just pretend that you're doing it. Like just pretend, like just go through the motions and you can go back to playing your video games or whatever you're doing.
That's so funny because I was talking to Katie about this. It was
Are you thinking
a
about converting?
yeah.
Turn your mic down a little bit, Drake. I think
Turn
it's
it
a
down?
little bit
Yeah,
higher.
a little bit down.
It's good though. Sounds good.
Sounds good.
It's
Better?
Yeah, you're good. Yeah, it's good.
Okay, cool. But I was talking to my mom about this specific point of really about like, because I'm trying to encourage her to, hey, can you get more of your friends into Self-Perfected? Because she's got plenty of friends who she shares. It's interesting. She'll share like DIP with them and self-forgiveness and all of that, right? But I'm like, hey, well, why don't you just bring them into Self-Perfected? Because then they'll be supported, like they'll be encouraged. There'll be other people around them who will, help them to continue doing those things, right? Because I know for myself, if I didn't have support of you, Cameron, saying like, hey, go and do this and check it out and look at these blogs and all that, I would have been like, yeah, I'm not doing any of that shit.
And my attitude is always like, just it's the least you can do. Just make yourself do it, okay? I don't care if you understand it.
Just type words. It doesn't matter what you're typing. Just type words.
Right.
Hit the 50 character minimum. Like,
So her objection was basically like, well, you guys aren't really like Christian. And I was like,
shit.
and I was like, okay, well,
This
that's
episode
cool.
is for your mom.
great. But no, what I said to her was like, well, look at it this way, because we follow the actual principles that are laid out in the Bible, like those principles that you were saying that were really good and explicit in Christianity, right? And she was like, yeah, but you guys are like, you use that stuff, but you're not Christians. And I go, okay, well, we'll check this out, right? If you had 2 kids, right? I'm my mom's only kid, but I said, if you had 2 kids and one of them said they loved you all the time, they loved you and they really felt it. They really felt that they loved you. They liked you a lot. Everything that you did, they're like, oh, I love you. You're the best. You're great. But everything you gave to them, they fucking threw that thing to shit. Like they just worked it. They didn't care about it. They were just like, they destroyed everything you gave them. Right. Then you have another kid, never says, I love you. Not even once. Right. You're not even sure, but everything you give them, they turn it into something beautiful, something more. They actually care for it. They appreciate it. You can see they appreciate it. They take care of it and they give it back to you with even more, right? Which kid are you going to appreciate more?
The one who says it.
I just want to feel a type of way.
I just want to feel something. But right, like
that's cool. That's a cool analogy. Yeah.
That's what people's
But then
thought
don't
of
children learn
God.
to manipulate that point?
100%.
Oh, I love you, this and that. They say all this shit, but they don't actually. And that's what I mean by spoiling.
Think about this. I had somebody say this recently. They're like, hey, can you I forget what it was, but they're just asking me like, hey, can you send that thing to me? And then I was doing something, so I didn't see it till later, but I saw they had also put, oh, I forgot the magic word, please. I was thinking about this, right? We are told that just because we say please, we should get something, or if we didn't say please, even if it's what's best, like what makes sense to give somebody, like they're thirsty, whatever, you need a bottle of water. Hey, can I get a bottle of water? Did you say please? Like, think about how stupid that is.
Drake, have you ever heard us say to our kids, like, what do you say?
No. In fact,
And what's
I've heard you explain
Go
the
ahead, go ahead.
opposite.
in
What did he
fact,
say?
like you're just kind of like it's like your kids never say please. They never say please. But like it
No, actually,
makes-
that's not true. They do say please.
Hmm.
You maybe haven't noticed it, but they actually do, especially Seneca.
Hmm.
They will
Yeah, I
say
haven't noticed it. I
they'll say
haven't
thank
noticed
you,
it. Yeah. No,
but we don't tell them to do it.
I'll hear them say thank you for sure.
It's just we do it because
No-
we've been
normally-
programmed to do it. It's like a
Yeah.
habit, right? And we say it, they do it. We don't have to say. And we're not saying don't say please. You can
Right.
should never say, because we understand in the world the way our system works,
Yeah.
it is one of those magic words. But we
Yeah.
explain that to them, right? But my point is they'll say it, and if they do or don't, it doesn't really matter to us,
Yeah.
right? But
Yeah,
but my
yeah.
point is it's interesting that they actually do, but that's simply because they hear us saying it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, I also notice you guys don't say please to them, like in a manipulative
Can you
way.
please
like,
give that to me, please? I'll just
Right.
right,
No, we just explain again why we want it or what the point is or whatever,
right.
right?
Yeah.
No, that's really cool because there's then we wonder why people like I grew up with a lot of females and I watched them get hurt by boyfriends because they're listening to the words he's saying that he loves me.
Did
But then
he
he
say
goes-
please?
He says I love you. He says that to me and he cuddles me so well, all that stuff, but then he cheats on me. But then he says he's sorry and he says I love you and I really do love you. I really do feel it. And so people think that, oh no, manipulative evil, like he doesn't actually feel that way. He's just saying it. But that's not actually true because you can feel that way about somebody and still do.
They'll make
just
excuses
abuse
for the
the
actions.
trust.
They'll make excuses for the actions, but not the words. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's like if I don't say I love you, but everything I did was actually an act of appreciation and giving to you something, without expecting anything in return. But I didn't say I love you, or I didn't say thank you, or I didn't say please. And if I'm manipulative and abusive physically, but then I say all these words, the person will, the girl in this context would take the guy back. And it's like, how fucked up programming wise do you have to be to not look at the actual practical point? And to your point, Drake, about your mom, right? She was talking about, well, you're not Christians, right?
Yeah.
What if we just change the name of Self-Perfected to the Young Christians Group?
Oh, fucking. We're
Then
in
you
there.
got-
And
get
like,
kicked
and
out.
every time we talked about stuff, we would always say, like, you
Not
have to do
young.
what's best for all, as Christ says.
Right.
And we always
Literally.
said that, like, you have to forgive yourself just as Christ forgave us. We've just always just add those words in. Suddenly, people would look at us and be like, "Oh my God, these like Christians are so amazing and so forth." We would literally change that. And as Christians, we are called to take care of the poor and to make sure that no child goes, like Jesus said, blessed are the children or whatever. We could just say everything and then because we're Christians behind it.
Right. Exactly.
But because we
Exactly.
don't do that, we're not Christians. And it's like,
Right.
yeah, we're not.
So it's like Christian by name versus by actually doing the things that you say makes a Christian, right?
So I guess we're the anti-Christians.
Oh,
Oh, is this so funny?
I prefer Christians, by the way.
anti-Christians.
It's
So-
more clear that we're following just one cult. I mean, God. What is it? Son of God. My bad.
Cult.
Christian, right? I like.
So we were talking about this just before the podcast started. Of it's fascinating that Jesus at his time there was like all those different religious scholars that he kind of like was flying in the face of, like the Sadducees and Pharisees that were like, oh, you have to do things according to the way it's been written over time. And Jesus is basically saying like, no, let's just use common sense and just like deal with what's here. But now you have people that look at the message of what's best for all and they're like, no, hang on. Like, we got to make sure it aligns with exactly how the Bible said it. It's like the exact same like program running. And
Well,
so
it's
for-
no different
yeah.
to all of the people. What is it? It's like the people
That's a good point.
who
though.
are in support of the lockdowns and all this stuff. They think that they're the ones who are on the side of everybody, like on the right side, but they're literally just the ones following the system. Do you see what I'm saying? But they actually believe that they're like, oh no, we got to do all these great things, but they're literally just implementing the system. And you see the same thing with Christians, religious people, etc. They're literally just holding the system in place because they're not at all in any way whatsoever living the actual principles. because when you really press somebody, especially a Christian, like, okay, well, what is it that you're supposed to do as a Christian? You say, well, I have to follow Jesus, right? Okay, well, what does that mean? You have to live his message and spread his message. It's like, well, what's his message? Is it just to say that you follow him and you tell other people to follow him? Is that it? Or was it the actual things?
Accept me. Just
Right.
accept me. That's it.
Just
be like,
accept
okay, I
Jesus.
accept Jesus. Then you're good.
So literally, if everyone just did this performance of saying they accept Jesus, then suddenly God would be like, all right, cool. Now everything can be really amazing. It's all going to work now. I got it. He's just like waiting for everyone. I mean, is that what people actually think? Right? Or is it, well, none of that matters anyways, because when we get to heaven, right? So literally, I'm just doing this performance of saying I believe in Jesus and so forth, because when I get to heaven, then
good
it's like
point.
I won't have to worry about if I die, like, am I gonna go to hell, or am
It's
I
so
gonna not
funny
exist?
because there's this point of, I think in every religion, it's like God knows like what you're thinking.
Right.
Even if you're
Mm-hmm.
not honest, like God knows. But we're thinking, yo, I'm just gonna weasel my way into heaven because I'm doing the act, I'm doing the stuff. We
But,
don't
but
think
hang
about it
on,
like that, but
because people think like God knows your heart, right?
right.
So like he knows I'm fucking trying. He knows this is fucking difficult.
That's
He
a good
knows.
point.
You
Yeah.
know, like I accepted him. He knows I want to, and it's just hard. So I'm trying, dude.
The
So-
whole starting point of that is
Mm.
greed.
Oh
If
shit.
you really
dude.
look at it, the whole starting point is greed. Like, I just want something for myself.
Everybody makes
And-
a pact with God, right? He talks about it in Creation's Journey Life. God, just please give me
Right.
give me what I want, and then I swear to God, I'll worship the shit out of you, dude. Like I will spread your word, I'll do everything.
But
like,
but what was the whole point of Jesus? Was he about himself at all?
oh, not baby.
You see what I'm saying? And it's fascinating because he apparently died, and then now on Easter you're supposed to believe that he came back from the dead to prove what?
That he was the real deal.
that
That he
death,
could.
What say it, Drake? What were you gonna say?
that death couldn't stop him. That
That
he's-
death couldn't stop him.
yeah,
From
he could
what?
Transcend death. Yeah.
From what? So it's like some symbol of like, see, look, we'll be able to live forever because Jesus did it.
Mhm.
Then why is he going to come back? And when he comes back, that's going to be the time where we all like fly up into heaven, and then like, what's he waiting for? Is it ever going to get to a point where everybody on the planet believes in Jesus? And then at that point, Jesus is going to come back? Or is it just like an arbitrary, he's like, yeah, I got it on my calendar, I'm going to come back. Whoever's with me is with me. And then what about the people who died before Jesus came back?
Or is
Don't
it that
they
he's
go to
supposed
heaven
to come
anyways?
back and then support to spread more, like convert more people?
Well, what's he waiting for then?
Gotta wait for the Antichrist, right?
I mean,
Yeah,
you better
the
hurry up,
Antichrist.
because if he comes back, he's not even gonna be able to get a Twitter account. At this point, they're just gonna lock him out. He's gonna have like a Patreon. They're gonna
Jesus-
shut that shit down.
Jesus is getting
You can't
fact
get
checks on
access to any
Facebook and
money.
shit.
Jesus is gonna
Yeah,
be like,
no bank account.
children, all people are equal. We are all children of God.
And then, like,
Black Lives Matter is gonna be like,
Reuters
not the
fact
white
check.
people, Jesus, not the white people.
And then they
Racist.
crucify him
They're
again.
like, this guy's a fucking racist. Yeah, exactly. They're gonna be like, oh shit.
Yeah.
There's gonna be people
He's
at the
like,
cross, like, "Ugh."
Oh man.
Like,
It's total
straight up.
insanity.
How, like, of course that would happen again nowadays. It's like you stand up and this person's sharing the Jesus message and you get crucified. Like, you can't say you're the son of God. You can't say we're all equals. Like, who are you to say that?
Like,
Hmm.
I mean, think about
can't even
that.
see it.
People, how many Christians believe
I
that
accept
Jesus is
Drake
gonna,
Pearson as my Lord and Savior.
how many
Oh,
Christians
okay.
believe Jesus is going to come back to earth? It's like a lot. I don't know what the percentage is, but a lot of Christians, they have this, it's like one of the things you have to accept, kind of, right? Whether they actually believe it or not. It's like, well, I mean, he's going to come back, right?
It was written in the Bible.
Right. Okay. So if that's going to happen, it's like the way everything is set up, there's no way you could actually know and believe that it's actually him.
True. True.
It's like an impossible situation.
Mhm.
Because if Jesus comes back, what would he have to say or do
Hey,
in
hey,
order
what
to
if,
prove to everybody it's actually him?
what if he came back as an Asian dude? No
An
one
Asian?
would believe that. Yeah, no one would believe that. Think about
if
that.
he was Chinese.
Yeah, imagine he was the
Good
leader of the
point.
Chinese Communist Party,
He probably would be.
right? Then he's like, after I get to the top, I'm gonna flip the switch. But we're all trying to take him out. Now that's why I say we swap over to Drake Pearson. I think if we all accept Drake Pearson as our savior,
Yeah,
then
let's
we
just look
will-
for a different savior.
But if
No,
somebody,
no, no,
if
no.
somebody,
Drake is good. That's a good
Drake is
place to
good.
stop.
Yeah.
but think
You
about
found what
Jesus.
you're looking for.
Even Jesus didn't say, "Worship me,"
Oh shit, dude.
right?
Yeah.
He didn't say, "Worship me." He didn't say, "Accept me as your savior." That's not what he said.
In fact, he was actually against warships.
Warships.
Yeah. He said no warships.
I don't remember that part. I thought it was "Blessed be the warships."
No, that was in one of the books that got left out of the Bible.
Oh, right, the book of warships,
You know,
the,
okay,
book, the
so
book of battle plans.
that's a good point of like people actually believe God just wants you to worship God. Just worship God, and that's what God's whole plan was for him to put you here and you worship him. And that's how God knows that, yes, you're a good creation. Like, as opposed to, and also their vocabulary or their understanding of what worship is just like, oh, you just say you love that guy and you praise him and he's
Sing
good
songs.
and sing songs about him and
Have sick guitars, you know.
yeah.
But all of that stuff is always about how the person feels. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting because I'm just looking up the word worship, and it comes from worth. Like you're supposed to pray that thing to show it's like
It's-
worth something. But
yeah.
it's basically this assumption that Jesus has like really low self-esteem. He's like,
So he needs to be
I need
praised.
everybody. I need everybody to tell me that I'm worthy. Please.
Isn't it? Is it like why would God need you to validate him? That's where
Yeah.
I'm looking at it. It's like, why would God care?
Okay,
At
but let's
all.
play Jesus advocate for a second. Okay. But in sincerely, like,
Like, are we
Is
going
the-
door knocking or what? Like Jehovah style?
does the Christian person, and look, this kind of, we're picking on Christians because it's Easter, right? But this would apply to every religion because every
Just
religion.
wait
Muslims,
till
you'll have
Eid.
your day too. We'll wait for Eid.
Yeah.
Right? But my point is, like, okay, so whether you're religious, whatever religion, even if you're atheist, this applies to you. But when people talk about worshiping Jesus, they don't really think that he needs that. Agreed?
Yeah.
Do you think they think he needs you to, like, is that their
He
logic?
needs
They
like to
but they
charge up his power.
they think that it is their purpose to worship God.
But
Like
why?
they think that they have been put on this planet to worship God.
Not that God needs it.
Not that he needs it, but that is their purpose.
It's your choice to do it. He's fine without you, but
Yeah. And so those of you who don't worship,
Mitch, are you following, Doc?
Dude, I'm a follower.
He's fine with that. He's fine without you, but you need to do it or else you don't.
It's like the ultimate in like power dynamics. He's like the most not needy.
yeah,
But we're
yeah.
all just like,
He's like, I don't care if you do or if you don't. But if you don't, you're fucked.
I don't care if you do or don't, but every principle, every rule I'm going to put in my religion is just about you worshiping me. But I don't need it, guys. It's not for me. It's for you.
right?
It's all about you guys. It's all
Right.
He
about
sounds
you.
confused. It's like fronting.
But like,
What were we saying,
isn't-
Jake?
so okay, so here's their logic is that you don't need to worship God. If you don't worship God, though, you end up going to hell. So he does away with you, meaning he only keeps those who do worship him, and he doesn't need it, but those are the only ones that he's keeping. So it's like if I were in this scenario, like, okay, if I were God, right, and I'm only keeping the ones that I like, it's like I have a purpose for these ones. I gave you a purpose, you fulfilled that purpose. I'm keeping you, discarding the ones I don't need, right? Isn't that like basically saying the purpose of you is to worship me and I only want worshipers? But what was the point that you were making, Cam?
Well, my point was, it's like, isn't it that you worship him because it's showing that you like accept him? meaning it's not necessarily for his benefit. It's for you to show that you are, in a way, following Jesus.
Whatever you say, I'll do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like I'm following Jesus. So I'm thinking the Christian or the religious person would argue that, I'm not worshiping it because I believe God is so lacking, he needs me to praise him. It's because it's a sign of me showing my appreciation, and that I will follow and adhere to God's commandments and words and so forth.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Which, if it's not that, then I mean, Jesus, like, that's fucked. Like, if they're like literally God, no, God needs it. Okay, which is
Yeah,
more like the
Jesus,
truth.
nice.
But Jesus, but my point is, okay, so let's just go down that road for a second. Let's say you're actually showing, I'm just doing it as a sign of I'm actually following God. But then what does that mean to follow God, to follow Jesus, to follow your religion?
Right.
If the principles are, in fact, as your mom was saying, the Christian principles or the best principles, right? What does it mean to actually say you're following Jesus? Other than just I'm worshiping him, like I want him to save me and take care of me and make sure that I exist forever and I all my problems are gone. If
Like,
it's something beyond that, what is it? What does it mean to follow him?
It should be something beyond that. It should 100% be like, hey, I actually hold these values or these principles rather, and I'm actually living these principles. I'm actually taking care of and appreciating the world as an appreciation, meaning like, oh, not that's nice, but no, I see that there's a responsibility here for me to take care of these things and be like a real steward of the world, or a custodian of this world and those living creatures and living things within it, right? Like that's really, going down the line that you've just wrote, right? That's really where it should be going. However, so many people just stop at, I accept God, I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior, I praise him, I pray, I do the 5 prayers a day, I do my, it's 5, isn't it? I do my,
but that is
my
not for Jesus. How dare you. That is not for Jesus.
And yet, though, it's like using the point of I'm following Jesus and Jesus exists and God exists and Muhammad or all these other things exist, using that to justify why you don't have to stand up and change anything in the system.
Right. Well,
so it's like, okay, God
well
wants you
put.
to follow him. And then in Christianity, that would be give as you want to receive, love your neighbor as yourself, do, all of those basic points. And there's more. But what we're saying, it's obvious. The common sense is, well, then you have to change the system to allow that to be possible and to have it as a systematic point. You don't have to think about it. It's not based on, and this is the key point, it's not based on your emotional whims. Because if giving only is in that moment when you see the homeless guy and you see that need and you feel guilty, that's not being a real Christian. That's being a Christian in the moment. Because as soon as something happens you don't like, suddenly you're an asshole or whatever. Right? And even if you're a nice person all the time, think about when you're not in the car seeing the homeless person and all the homeless people that still exist. And even if you're giving to charity, is it helping really make even a slight dent in anything? And then the next excuse usually that comes up is, well, that's not for me. I just do the minimum, and I don't mean that facetiously. I do the thing that I can do, but all the other stuff I can't have any effect on. Right. And it's like, well, then if we can acknowledge that just a certain percentage of the population accepting Jesus and therefore doing charities and little acts of kindness and things like that doesn't have a large effect in the system, then what's the point at all?
Oh, nice.
That point that you said about okay, there's not really much I can do about this, but also that God's supposed to take care of it, right? God's supposed to take care of it. This is also just the way things are. It's not things that I really think about, right? It's really, you have to be blocking yourself or really ignorant from being able to see that what's actually running things isn't God, or if you want to call it God, fine, but it's through the various systems that we've put in place and did like a set it and forget it type of thing. where we don't even consider all these systems are in place that are actually driving everything to where it is and to keep it going in that way. And so if you're expecting for that to be changed, it's not going to happen in that way, because that is in essence God. In the way that people think of God as like God's in the trees, it's, you know, it's all around us and everything, and it just automates things. Well, that's what we've created as our God. That's what we've allowed and accepted. And that's what continues going. And we're using that excuse of God's going to fix it to ignore the fact that we've created this as our God and keeps us from changing it. Isn't that fucking insane? It's like, that is like, you know, when Christians talk about like the devil basically being a trickster, right?
That bastard.
but basically, like, the devil will present to you something that sounds really nice and beautiful, and you'll accept it, and so you don't know if it's the devil or God or whatever, or if it's Lucifer or whomever, right? Because he speaks like so beautifully and eloquently that you just want to accept it. But literally, that's what's happening, is that they've labeled this thing as God, not realizing that they've accepted the system as God, the way that it is. And because of their label of God, it's literally stopping them from doing anything about it.
Mm-hmm. Wait,
Go ahead.
Does that mean that Mitchell's the devil because he's beautiful and speaks really well, and everything that he says is good?
No, it means Jesus is the devil.
Oh, fuck.
But think about it. Why does the Christian or the religious person who follows their religion, or the atheist who follows fucking Richard Dawkins or whoever the
Right,
fuck
I wanted
they
to
worship, right?
bring it to that later.
Why what is it that they're actually following? Is their feelings? Is their self-interest? So even if you're a Christian, and here's like the next level of mindfuckery for Christians, especially, and I'm sure this happens in other religions, but it's like, well, no, hold on. The system, this world that we live in, this is the illusion, this is the Satan, and there's a God beyond that, and so I don't believe in anything of this world. So they think, oh, they've got it, they found the loophole, right? But you still have a job, you still use money, you still probably participate in Christmas, you probably still do all these things, you probably still give to charity. Like, you can't even breathe a molecule of air without participating in this system. So that's really just the ultimate cop-out.
Right. Wow.
It's like the same thing with the spiritual people who say this world's an illusion. It's like
you're participating in the illusion. You're upholding the
then
illusion.
then why are you here?
Yeah.
If it's such an illusion, just be gone for a moment. Just go. Yeah, you can't. You're lying to yourself. You're avoiding responsibility. And so the most challenging thing, and I can see this in real time. The person who has TechnoTutor, for example, and they start developing their processing ability and they start to see this for themselves. So this isn't going to persuade somebody who's like, the reality is they're low processing ability. And you might think, oh, but there's really highly well-paid, intelligent people who are Christian and so forth. Yeah, but they're actually low processing ability. They're just programmed to fit into a specific niche in the system. And they benefiting. And so they're actually the most evil of all, because they're really fully benefiting when no one else would be able to.
My dishwasher is
perpetuating
like
that same narrative.
Yeah.
Just to clarify what Cameron means by they're just programmed for one thing. It's like, my dishwasher is amazing at fucking washing the dishes, but it can't do much else.
Well, look at a doctor, for example. What is a doctor? Someone who's highly intelligent.
No.
Because people would think, yes, you have to be so smart to get into medical school. No, you don't. You have to get good grades to get into medical school.
And you can cheat to do that.
Not only that's true, but also do you have to be highly intelligent to get good grades?
You just have to understand how the system works.
I got great grades and I was retarded.
You're valedictorian.
Yeah. And I was like on the like dean's list in university, and then I started using TechnoTutor, and a year later, 2 years later of using TechnoTutor, I was like, holy fuck, dude, I can't think, I'm retarded.
But my point is, it's processing ability.
Psychology degree. Yeah.
Here's what I mean by processing ability. Something feels good. It's not even good. It's like it feels
feels right.
It's not even that. It's like it's not even a feeling necessarily associated with it. The feeling you get is whenever when you bump up against the point of questioning something that you've accepted, and you get that negative feeling. You get that sort of oh shit, or like sort of a if I question this, everything else is a little bit suspect.
You were mentioning this on the last call of that positivity point about how it traps us, because it's like we're not honest about our situation because we don't think we can change it. And we think that so long as we kind of upkeep this idea of what our situation is, then eventually we're going to create that situation that we want. Right. And it's kind of like the same thing of like, it's like that same idea that's being applied of what we're talking about through kind of, you know, thinking that Jesus is going to come back and save the day. Like it's like Santa Claus. It's like Santa Claus. If you believe hard enough, then he'll come through and drop presents on your chimney and all that stuff. That's what we learned in the movies, right? I remember a specific movie scene where it's like the sleigh is not going, and it shows the dashboard of the sleigh, and it was like belief level or some shit like that. It's like faith or something like that, and it's like pretty low. And the person who like doesn't, there's like one guy who like doesn't believe in it, like, oh gosh, and so feel good, and everybody's like, yeah, believe and all that stuff. And it's just like this last guy who their kid is like tugging on their arm, like, you just have to believe. And he's like, okay. And then he starts believing, and then the fucking sleigh takes off, and then it comes true. Right?
In a fake movie.
That's Elf.
Fake movie.
That's Elf.
That Elf? Oh,
Yeah,
like
that's
shit,
Elf.
yeah. And it's the Elf's dad,
And
right?
he's supposed to
business guy.
sing. He's supposed to sing, and like they're like he's mouthing the words. That's like you guys with your prayer.
That's a really okay. This Elf, by the way, don't kill me because I didn't know it was Elf. But that idea is exactly why, if you really think about it, that was what was enforced on me through my parents. It's like when I stopped believing in Santa Claus, I stopped getting gifts. So that idea is so, you guys know what I'm referring to at the very beginning, like when I was old enough, right? I found out
Your
Santa Claus
belief
wasn't-
power went to
Right, exactly. Exactly. I stopped believing in Santa Claus, so I stopped getting gifts. It's a subconscious point, right? So wait, you're saying that if I just stood in the illusion would be real? Like the presents would keep coming, right? So it's like, it's the same kind of idea of if you question the system, what's the system going to do for you? Give you the boot, baby. Flick you off to the side, bud. And so the alternative that you see that in reaction to religion, whether it be Islam or Christianity or whatever, you get there's like the hardcore Christians, you get the hardcore atheists. And that's like a great example of that is my oldest brother. He's like, oh, this is bullshit. Like it's all total bullshit and all that stuff. It's like obviously stupid to just be in a religion and not understand anything and just follow blindly. It's also stupid to say anybody who follows religion is stupid from the perspective of there's nothing of value in religion.
Hey, I have a question. Does your cousin send your oldest brother the same videos?
He gets different videos from my uncle because he's gay. So
I was gonna say, I bet it's different.
Yeah. My uncle's always like, hey, so like, when are you gonna get married? Like, where's your girlfriend? He's like, I didn't notice that.
See, but that's an interesting point, though, just to kind of sidetrack for a second, because on the liberal left progressive side of things, it's like LGBTQ plus rights, transgender, all that stuff, right? All the anti-racism, but then also don't hate Muslim people. But what would a person say to like someone like your uncle in that context, where they're like, hey, this and that's like a very traditional Muslim point. Like you get married, you have lots of kids.
Well,
I mean,
my uncle
you see what I
knows
mean?
that he's gay. That's why he sends him those messages.
No, I
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
that. I understand that, but I'm saying that's a very mainstream Muslim
Yes.
point of view.
Yes.
Like basically don't be gay. Right? And as it is a mainstream Christian view. So it's not singling out Muslims, just saying it's a traditional way of looking at things, right? And yet if we're on the side of protect gay rights and so forth, but also
Don't hate Muslims.
don't hate Muslim people, right? And like their culture is totally valid and don't question it, and they should have the right to whatever they want. how do you reconcile those 2 points?
It's hilarious. We have Minneapolis is very liberal, and everyone's got these yard signs that say "All are welcome here." I wanted to go up to their door and be like, "Hey, I support Trump." See what they would say.
Am I welcome?
Wait, that's exactly right. Yeah.
Or yesterday, Jess and I went out to eat, and we were at this one restaurant. And we walk in, no mask. We just go straight to the table. We're like, "Hey, can we get some food here?" I got up to go to the bathroom. I had 2 different people that worked there openly confront me. Sir, you need to wear a mask when you're walking to the bathroom. I'm looking around this restaurant where everyone is sitting. Well, there were some families that were sitting down all wearing their masks while eating too. I was like, oh, and they had a baby too. I was like, oh, poor baby. But
It's a lot of work.
okay,
It's like double
we're
work
at this
here.
restaurant, right? All sorts of people just hanging out. No one's wearing masks, all that. And it's like, literally, I had 2 people, and it was like, I mean, I don't know much about Nazi Germany, but it felt like they were both like, you obey. And it was just like, and they had the whole "all are welcome" on sign on their door. I'm like, oh, am I welcome if I don't wear a mask?
No.
Because damn, this is really, really crazy. And we were talking to one of the waiters there too. And I was like, hey, do you think this mask thing is ever gonna be over? And because I have a very hard time believing that it's ever going to go, at least in certain cities where people are going to be like, okay, not wearing masks or whatever. Because
Okay,
as soon
wearing
as
masks, you mean?
where
that people won't be okay not wearing masks. Okay.
yeah, that people would say, okay, I'm okay to take off the mask and we can go in public again and hug each other and all that stuff. Like in certain cities like Minneapolis, I have a very hard time believing it, because think how easy it's going to be to just say, oh, there's a variant of COVID that could be even worse now. It's like, there's just going to be this game that they're going to be able to keep playing. I mean, until we're in power. But anyway.
Hey, that makes me think of something actually totally off topic.
So I was eating this sandwich one day.
No. Okay, so if Jesus came back, alive after 3 days, right? Then he came back and he had a real human physical body. It wasn't just like a trick, like he was like a ghost or something. Like that's the belief, is that he really came back to life, right? They were like, he even had the apostles like put his hands through his wounds, right, to touch it, right? But then he ascended into heaven. Does that mean that as a Christian, you would have to believe that heaven is literally in this physical dimension? Because his body's made out of physical matter. So he had to like go into heaven, and that means it's physically here. Like you could take a spaceship and eventually you'd get there, kind of a thing. Or is it another dimension? Like when people think about these things, like how do they imagine heaven exists? Because you can get in there if you have a physical body. So there must be a physical dimension in which you are in heaven, and it's just like maybe it's got some kind of security system around it or something. But
well, I think it's like, because I can still remember like 2 years ago when I was like thinking that this is how things worked. We're like, so you got your physical body, right? And then you just like vibrate at such a high level that you just like start to dematerialize to you just like this floating blob of energy. And that's like, that's then heaven. So it's like, it's here, but it's just like, it's like this energy field.
So that's not traditional Christianity. That's like more spirituality.
Well, that's Mitchianity.
Yeah. I guess I don't know. I don't know what the typical
Mitchianism. Yeah.
Mitchism.
That is an interesting point, though, that you would just vibrate really, really fast.
Yeah, you should try it sometime.
It's called twerking.
Yeah, twerking away to heaven.
They're ahead of their time.
That's what Cardi B's trying to do.
Just trying to get us to all go to heaven.
She's trying to twerk her way to heaven.
Is Cardi B the reincarnation of Jesus?
What if?
Oh shit, dude. Oh, and we do get it because everybody is following her.
We're all gonna be saved.
Am I Da Vinci, dude? Holy shit! Wow. See, Cameron's trying to process what I just said.
I'm thinking about it. I'm like, there's something to this theory.
Yeah. So okay. So there was this point of when I was realizing when I was investigating Destiny, and they're like, use common sense, like stop believing in shit, right? I'm like, okay. So the common, because a big factor in the fundamental point of religion is using the fear of death to sell you on an afterlife and a particular kind of afterlife. So then do these things and you'll get into the afterlife. And then so atheism is the reaction to that, where it's like, there's no afterlife. When you die, blackness, you don't exist, TV turns off, right? Everybody describes it. Everybody uses this analogy like no one's ever heard it before. Like, for example, when a TV turns off, that's what I think happens. It's like everybody thinks that. And then I was looking at that point, right? And I think it's way back when I was talking to Cameron or whoever, right? So sorry to burst anybody's bubble who still is just accepting that. But that's just the belief.
Wait, just accepting what point?
The atheism point.
The point of like, what was I saying? No.
What happens when you die?
The blank TV
Yeah,
screen.
but the point of thinking that you're the first one to like kind of come up with that analogy of like, I'm the first one to think of like, a blank TV screen, like shut off. I was just kidding around.
See, the problem with atheism is it doesn't explain the existence of self-awareness. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't explain, like, why do you need to be self-aware? Why do you need to have any awareness whatsoever? Does an atheist think that a rock has self-awareness?
No.
They would think that's mysticism.
Yeah. Also, an atheist thinks like,
But what if I
nothing
said
matters?
But what if I said I don't believe you have self-awareness then?
Oh fuck, dude.
They're like, what are you talking about? Of course I do. I'm like, no, what that sounds mystical. Like, what, a rock has self-awareness? Why would you, inanimate matter, have any self-awareness whatsoever?
Fuck.
I'm animate though.
And then you could say, well, but you do. I'm like, how do you know I do?
Oh,
Fuck.
shit, dude.
So,
'Cause
but
we're
we all
talking.
know that we do.
Yeah.
Why is that necessary? Like, have you ever seen an assembly line, like an automated like car assembly line?
People are
Those
robots.
machines are not self-aware of what they're doing. They're just
Mhm.
doing the motions that are programmed to do it.
You talking about humans or
look at all the
robots?
things humanity does. It all looks pretty programmed. It is
Yeah.
programmed. And yet, why do we have self-awareness then?
Yeah.
It doesn't explain that. So I understand the religious impulse because, like, well, there must be something more. Because why the fuck am I here? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Why am I in this body observing everything I'm doing? What's the point? And seemingly making choices and so forth, right? And yet, I'm also so limited by my environment growing up, by my decisions, by my beliefs and so forth, and by the circumstances of the system of this world. Everything is so fucked. Why am I here? What is the point of all this? There must be something greater, right? And I think it really tells you something about yourself or someone else as an individual if your answer to that question is, nah, I mean, it's just random.
And that's why I wanted to bring up that point.
How-
That's why I wanted to bring that point of believing that after you die, is my connection okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, sorry.
Just kidding. No, I'm just
But yeah, that's why I was bringing up that point of that. It's like what you think happens after you die will influence how you live your life here, right? And so that idea of, well, it's obvious if you just look at it, like you just shut off, it's gone, like you don't exist anymore. That is still a belief.
Mhm.
Like, it's just like thinking that if you walk through a door, some people are like, oh, through the door is like a beautiful cafe, or it's like this or that. You're like, no, it's just nothing. You walk through the door and there's nothing. It's just another belief. And if you're guiding your life based off, it doesn't fucking matter what I do, then yeah, of course that's going to permeate in every aspect of what you do. But because I used to accept that too, of more so from the specific perspective of, therefore it doesn't matter what I do, because after I die it just turns off, no more consequences, nothing. Therefore it's like, it doesn't really matter what I do here, I'll just do whatever I want.
Yeah.
Right. So
but nobody actually lives like that.
You were saying, Cameron, is my connection okay?
Oh, there he goes.
Boom. Spoke that into existence.
Is he pranking us right now? You were like, is my connect?
That's so
He's still
weird.
there. That was pretty
That's
interesting.
really
timing.
weird. Okay,
does
did you guys
anyone
hear everything
actually-
I said?
Yeah, but does anyone actually
Okay,
live like
okay.
that, as if nothing matters? Who thinks that way?
No,
they
it's
they
a
end up
very,
living
very
exactly like the Christian. Exactly.
Exactly.
Like everyone's living exactly the same, because it's not about
that's
that.
true.
You're still
That's
living
true.
your purpose is, I'm in this system, I have to survive. You're still trying to survive. If it didn't matter, why would it matter?
Mhm.
So then you have all these other, well, it's about just feeling good, or it's about living in the moment. And it's like, but you still don't apply any of that. And even if that's true, again, it goes back to like, who are you?
Yeah.
Like, can't you, given the opportunity, given the chance, can't you be like, okay, you know what? It doesn't matter what I do here. So why not do the very best thing? And the very best thing would be to improve this existence for those who are here, including myself. Why how could you come up with anything else? It's like there would be every other thing you could
But
imagine
why
doing,
would I
and
do
then there would be
that?
this. Say it.
Why would I do that? Because you know, I'm not going to benefit from that. Like, I'm not even going to see the benefit of that in my lifetime.
See, but doesn't
Yeah,
that
you can.
also tell you who you are? You're right. Yes, you can. But also, doesn't that also say about who you are?
Mhm.
I know a lot of people have that objection.
But I know. But that just shows how numbed everyone is, you know, to actually being alive.
Mhm.
And that comes down to, again, that point I said earlier. It's all about being greedy instead of being grateful that you are alive. In fact, I mean, it's like, what does it take to convince somebody that you have been given a gift of being alive? It's so profound if you look at it. It's super profound.
Mhm.
And then atheists try to reduce it to something and then try to find meaning in that. But the only meaning they can find is the exact same meaning that all other religious people find in life, which is just, well, I mean, it doesn't fucking matter. So, because I'm going to go be somewhere else. It's literally the same. It's literally this. They're like, okay, well, there's all these people because, you know, Nietzsche said God doesn't exist anymore or whatever the fuck, you know, so we got to find a way to get all these people who are questioning religion from them challenging the system. So let's create a new religion called atheism, where you just don't believe anything matters or anything, you know, it's just all temporary. How is that different than what Christians believe? How is that different than what spiritual people believe? Like, what's really cool, if you look at Destiny, if you look at Self-Perfect, if you look at what we stand for as a group, it takes the best of religion, which is the actual principles which anybody could look at and be like, yeah, this makes sense. If everyone had this principle as a way that they live their life and we put all these together, this world would be amazing. It also takes all the parts of the atheist point of view, which is, well, but I don't believe there's some God that just magically saves everybody. Yeah, neither do we. That would also, right, that would also be stupid.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you take all of those things and make it make sense? There is nothing outside of you that's going to change you. Therefore, there's nothing going to change what you're contributing to this world. The part of reality, whatever it is, that manifests because of who you are, that's under your direction. No one else can change that. And so if literally, think about this, to be a Christian, you would have to literally believe that you are of no consequence whatsoever. That you do not matter to reality. And if you don't even make any single difference because God has a plan and God figured it out and God's going to do everything anyways, why would it matter if you believe in God?
Right.
How does that detract from God's ability to create and to manifest or anything? And you say, well, God just loves us so much that he just wants to give us the opportunity to freely love him.
Right.
What does that mean? Like, and I know all the arguments. It's not like I'm ignorant of any, because, you know, you have the Christian maybe, or whoever, the religious person is like, oh no, if you don't understand, it's like, I know all of the different arguments. I've been through all of it. None of it makes any sense. Because at the end of the day, it's just the person not having an answer for, why don't I use the limited time that I have to make this world best for all? It's just some level of excuse for that, to not want to just bite the bullet, so to speak. Like, fuck, you know what? I have to take full responsibility. I have to do everything I can within the time that I have here in this physical reality to actually do what's best for all.
Yeah.
So instead we create these layers of excuses and so forth, to the point where it's like I was laughing yesterday. We went to that farm and I saw somebody who was frustrated and yelling at their kid because the kid was playing with these yard signs that they were giving out at this place we were at that said, "He is risen," and it was like a cross. and they were yelling at the kid because he was playing with it. They're like, put it down, put that back. And I'm like, do you see like the irony within that?
Mhm.
And it's like, imagine if Jesus was there, wouldn't he be like, child, play with it, have fun? You know, like, would he be like,
Yeah.
put that down, you irresponsible idiot? Like, what the fuck? And this person's like, put that down. Come on, we got to go over here. You know, it's like,
But it also shows like the programming behind their religious belief is like you have to have reverence for everything. Yet they'll have reverence for a symbol, but not for actual life. Like
Like
it's
the life of that child.
It's
if you
so
like put a
fucking
Bible down
asinine.
and stepped on it and threw dirt on it, they'd be like, oh, how dare you? But if you
Right.
literally smacked your kid for like eating an ice cream cone or some shit, or like wanting to go play when you told them not to,
They'd be like, I understand, I get it.
they'd be like, well, it
It's
says in
all
the Bible,
freaking
spare the
backwards.
child, spoil the rod, or whatever the fuck it says.
Opposite.
Okay.
Spoil the child, spare the rod, spoil the child.
I know what it says.
Okay. Hey. but it's really just like they've got life backwards. Like, and virtually everyone does. Everything's in reverse, right?
Spell live backwards. What do you get?
I don't know how to spell. But
Jesus.
yeah, Jesus.
Anti-spells.
Anti-spells.
but it's just that same point that we were talking about with my mom. It's like you care about a word or a symbol or to keep the appearances of something rather than actually understanding and living that for real, actually living the words of love your neighbor with like as you love yourself, right? What is it? Love God with all your heart, all your mind, all your soul, right? And then love thy neighbor as thyself. But thinking about it like, well, I don't really like me, so fuck them, right? Not even really considering that your neighbor is yourself, and then also that you are God, right? Not considering any of that because of some emotional feeling within you of you've been told that God is this reverent thing, and for you to be God is blasphemous. For you
Right,
to
because
speak in
you're
that
so small and worthless.
right,
You literally
like,
have to
so-
accept
so
that you are
sinful.
small and worthless.
you have to
Or-
accept that. Yeah, you have to accept that you are inferior, that you have no place in this world, that you don't actually make a difference.
And then you treat others as yourself. And you
Right.
treat others as inferior.
As
and-
if they don't make a difference, as if they don't matter, right?
Shit, dude.
There was this like Kim, we were talking the other day and you were helping me make sense of the point of how the world that we live in is basically like, well, we've said this on a previous podcast about how what we experience in the world is a hologram, a projection of us within, right? And the point that I was trying to say was, well, it's because we have accepted all of these things. That is the world that we've created. This is the world that we've created where it's like, it's a shit world, right? And it's literally like a reflection of all of us as beings in general, creating this world the way that it is to be. And this is the way that I conceive of it is like, this is actual matter because this is what matters to all of us as beings, or at least this is what we've accepted as what matters to us. And until we've each, are you guys following me on this? Am I still making sense? Okay, cool. But until we've each transitioned or transcended rather that point within ourselves of being greedy and selfish and all that, the world won't change. And so why it matters so much what we do here is because this is what actually matters. This is what we actually are. This is who we are. This is like, there's no beyond this really,
Right.
because it's all going to be reflected here.
This is also the opportunity for us to change ourselves.
Right.
Because when you change, you see the reflection of that outwardly. So you get actual feedback versus, you know, like you have these people, especially you see this in like the self-development, self-help world, right? Where they're trying to project like everything is great, but internally everything is fucked.
Mm.
So it's
So,
easy to, in your mind, pretend like everything is good.
how do you differentiate between those two things?
What?
Actually changing yourself versus, like, in terms of, we create through our projections of what's inside of us. So we say, okay, the thing that's inside of me is a great life. How do you
But
distinguish?
that's a lie though. That's a like a starting point of a lie, because you know what's inside of you, because
Yeah.
just look around outside of you.
Inside
what-
of you, yeah.
Right.
Inside of you, okay. Inside of you is not, I imagine something different inside of me.
Right.
Mhm.
Inside of you is who you are
Self-awareness.
actually internally, what you accept, what you allow, what you like, what you don't like, what you
Right.
what you
Right.
will allow in other people.
What you exist as.
Yeah, so it's not just I'm imagining everything in my life going good. I don't understand, why isn't it working on the outside? It's because it's not imagining something. That's not who you are. That's just like a computer screen. You're drawing up pictures on a computer and you're like, why isn't it happening? It's like, no. That the verse, it's who you are, what you accept outwardly becomes other things. Like it in every, like, look at all the context. You guys could look at it, I could look at it from my perspective in terms of working with you guys. You can look at it in terms of working with me, each other, and so forth. How you've had to stand up to things that you didn't agree with and like support somebody through like, no, that's not acceptable. You have to look at it this way. But if you hadn't made that change within yourself, you wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah.
So,
That's-
but because you did, you're able to change something on the outside because you just don't accept it. Right. And the other person has to now change.
Yeah, that's that point of like, when I saw for myself what tacit approval was and how I gave tacit approval. But like, it's literally like, it's so funny that I had that experience, because that's like the most obvious point of, it's literally within everything that we're doing, we're giving tacit approval. And so like, meaning everything that we accept, everything that we allow within ourselves, we are implicitly allowing that and accepting that in the world around us, in others, right?
Where I know that you're saying this, but even to be more specific, it's also through, like, basically most of the time through what we're not doing.
Hmm.
And then
Explain that more.
it's like, if somebody says some bullshit. Oh, you know what? It's a great example. It's like, you remember when we were school kids and there's always that some video of something of like somebody watching a kid get bullied and you don't do anything about it. It's like, that's like, oh, that's bad, right? And then you have that one person who's like, hey, stop bullying that kid, even though they're like not as big and tough as the bully. Like, hey, back off from him. It's like that's a virtuous thing, because you saw a problem and you stepped in and you stopped it, right? And so tacit approval within the context of somebody's promoting a belief system, and I'm not just talking about religion, I'm just talking about very basic things of like, oh, you know, that's just the way the world is, or, you know, like there's just bad people out there, or whatever it may be. Like, even on an individual level of like, you know, like, you know, the day is just the way it is, and, you know, I sleep, I wake up, and that's just what life is, or whatever. If they're telling that to a child, for example, actually, Cameron, you told the story before of when you were seeing somebody tell to a child, oh, like, that's not for us to know, like, like people, we can't know that stuff, like that's up for the experts, or whatever the case may be. It's like, you have to step in, because what's inside of that person is being created into that child. Because, Drake, you want to say something?
Yeah. Cause I was just remembering when you were saying that, like, do you guys remember this like really, it's like a famous example or case study of all these people living in an apartment building or something like that, and they were witnessing a rape. Like, everyone witnessed the rape, but the police never showed up.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until long after, when like all these people were interviewed and they were asked like, what happened? Well, we all saw this person getting raped. Well, why didn't you call the police? Why didn't the police show up? Nobody called the police because everyone thought somebody else would do it.
Mhm.
And so nobody was taking the responsibility themselves.
Bystander effect.
Yeah. And
Bystander effect.
just like what you were saying, like reminded me of that. That's a real life example of like really obvious, like seeing that like nobody's taking responsibility. Yet that's a real life example because that's how we live as society. But yeah, continue. Sorry.
Well, that's basically it, right? And it's just a great example of, at some intuitive level, we know that what's inside another person will in fact affect us. That's why people don't like salespeople. Because people know that salespeople can communicate effectively what's inside of them to another person. And people know that they're fucking retarded and can get brainwashed easily.
No. What they know is they make decisions emotionally.
Right.
And they know that the salesperson is skilled at appealing to the person's desire. That's all it is. They're not getting brainwashed. They have desires. The salesperson is simply appealing to them. And they know how to use words to be able to bring that up within a person. People are not tricked into anything. If you think about it, it's like, how can you be?
You made a good point when you were talking about cults, and you're like, they want to be there because there's something that they're getting out of that.
Yeah, it's like, why would I find myself living on some farm in fucking Arizona, going, like where I picked up and left my job if there wasn't something I was looking for? Like, oh, the guy just tricked me. It's like, what do you mean he tricked you? Into what? Right?
Into
like,
drinking Kool-Aid.
That's
every
why
day.
like all the stuff with like Scientology, people are so negative about Scientology. And it's like, all those people are searching for something. That's why they're in it. No one's being brainwashed into being in it any more than anyone's being brainwashed into Christianity or Islam or any of these other religions or philosophies or whatever. People, their starting point is, I don't want to take responsibility. I want something that helps me feel justified within just accepting the system as is. I just want to accept the system. That's all it is. And so when you look at, for example, that point you were making about how do you kind of like tacit acceptance and so forth, if you saw that there was a system, which is our system, educating children in a way systematically through every aspect of it, not just quote what we call the education system. That's just one dimension of it. But in every aspect, media, the way parents have to go to work because of the way they've been impulsed into thinking about the purpose of life and so forth and what's important, and the economy and the decisions that are made there and everything, it's educating children in a way where they are not equal to understanding reality. They can't understand it. They're totally lost. You don't have a problem with that. See, that's something everyone is accepting. We're accepting the economic systems the way they are. We're accepting the educational systems, the health systems, all these things the way they are, because within us, our starting point is, I'm just here to survive. I just got to get through this life. And along the way, I'll have some pleasures and I'll have some ups and downs. And it's just all a big thing. And I don't know what the point of any of it is, but I'm just here along for the ride. That's what we're all accepting. That has to change. And it's as simple as deconstructing all the beliefs and thoughts and feelings and everything you have, and allowing yourself to experience that discomfort of like, well, if I don't accept that anymore, then what do I do? Well, it's like, imagine if you were born into a world where everybody already was certain. You wouldn't have to go through that. You would have a lot of people who are certain. You might have some initial, like, kind of like, I don't really understand where I'm at and everything, but everyone around you would be supporting you to understand, here's why we're here. Here's what you actually are. Here's what you're really capable of, right? That's what we do with our kids. Like, we're very clear with them about what we accept and what we don't accept. If the children do something that isn't best, we tell them it's not best. We don't allow a point where they can just get away with shit. They can't manipulate us with their feelings and their emotions. And we don't do that to them. We're direct with each other, right? And like, for example, like, you ever notice, Drake, while you're here, like how Seneca or Max, they might yell at us. Like, not in a mean way, but like Seneca might just be like, Cameron. Right? And it's because, and Max does it too. It's because I was focused on something else. He's got my attention. I'm like, oh, hey, what's up?
Yeah, Max will do that to me in the morning. He'll be like, hey.
But it's like they're trying to get your attention because you're not fully here, right?
But now, Max why will also say to me, he'll also say to me, Drake, I need your attention. You're not paying any attention to me. Right. And I'll be like, oh yeah, you're right. What's up?
But do you see my point though? Is like, we don't punish them for that.
Right.
We're not like, hey, you have to speak to us with it. Now, what we will do is we'll make suggestions to them. We'll say like, okay, look, in this particular context, you already have my attention. You're taking on a whining expression. That's not necessary. Okay. And the problem with doing that expression is it's going to cause problems with communication later on. So that expression in this context is not acceptable. Why don't you try another way of doing it? Let me give you a suggestion. Why don't you say this? Hey, Cameron, can you pick me up? Or hey, Cameron, can you go get me some milk? And then they'll say, okay. Hey, Cameron, can you give me some milk? Sure. Let's go do it. But it's not, you know, it's not a, you didn't say the magic words. It's because that's so arbitrary. Do you see?
Yeah.
So in other words, what are you training them to do? How are you training them to think about it? And so
Imagine
we're
learning
always,
this when you're 4.
and so we're always
Fuck.
explaining the intention, the reasoning behind it. It's like, so instead of saying, for example, no, say please. If I were going to tell a child to say please, here's how I would do it as an example. I would say, look, in the future, when you go out beyond our home and you're interacting with other people, I just want you to understand, most people, because of the way they've been educated and impulsed by their parents and society, they're expecting you to say please after you ask them to do something. And if you don't, what happens is they'll have an emotional reaction and they'll actually resist it. So you're going to have to understand that in certain contexts, it may be more effective or efficient to say please versus not saying it. Right.
Hey,
And
there's something that I wanted to bring up before we continue on this route. Cause like the point that you were just making just before this about how in religions and even in atheism, how it doesn't support you to take more responsibility. I was reading some article on Destiny this morning. And as I was reading through it, I was like, this is really cool because I recognized in this moment again, I recognize that what's really cool about Destiny is that in order for you to understand it, you have to take responsibility. And in order for you to deny it, then you have to deny whatever it is that you believe in.
Hold on, say it again.
Okay.
Deny destiny. You have to deny what you believe in.
You have to deny whatever it is that you believe in. Like you have to open the door for whatever it is that you believe in to be total bullshit.
If you don't accept destiny, or if you do.
Right. If you don't
Explain.
accept it.
Do
Okay.
you have an example?
Yeah. Because like in Destiny, they talk about like in this particular article that I was reading, it talked about like heaven and how how heaven was basically constructed to basically manipulate and to put you into this system. And so, all the things that people believe in, like especially spiritual people, about as above, so below, and, the great white light and all these things that they want to accept. Right. And just describing how, okay, well, yeah, look, there's this, there's that, there's this, sure. But at the end of the day, it comes back to, and saying it really explicitly, at the end of the day, it comes back to you have to take responsibility. None of that stuff is going to support you anymore. And here's why, and really clearly laying it out, like, because if you follow those things, you'll get trapped in believing in this mind system or whatever, in consciousness, rather than being here in awareness, doing like here's the point of it. Here's the point. The point is we're creating a life, a world that's best for all, where we're giving life to each other, not continuing to participate in this secret knowledge where it's not going to have any real effect in your life or actually bring about those things that are best. And so in order to say, well, I don't believe that, or I don't want to go along with that, that means that, or to say like, that's bullshit, that opens the door then to, well, then what you're doing is bullshit. How can you say that your thing is the real thing? Because the end point, the starting point is, let's do what's best for all. Let's all take responsibility. Let's create together. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so like the way I see it now more clearly is because, and I guess I'm coming from the starting point of, I know a lot of spiritual people, and I would let them just like kind of talk their shit, because it was like, how do I even get through to this person? They're like so far into their own beliefs that they're not willing to, or they might say, well, no, that's incorrect, that's wrong, or whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like, well, where are you going with what you
Well,
believe
and
in?
that's the point I've been making as well, which is if you accept what they're saying at face value, this is the conclusion it leads to. If you believe that, for example, everything is energy, that means your individuality has an end. You can't be all one energy and still retain your individuality. So why would you? And think about it. What's the actual starting point of the typical spiritual person?
Everything's
they're
energy,
trying
so it
to-
doesn't matter.
But they're trying to experience bliss.
Right,
Mm.
because like they're part of source creation, and
The ultimate
source is, like,
conclusion of everything is energy is your individuality doesn't exist anymore. So you don't get to experience anything. So the very thing you're afraid of, which is not existing, which is why you're chasing the bliss experience, is what you're actually accepting logically as an outflow of what you believe. Just like if you believe there's a God and he created all of us and we are his servants and we worship him as our Lord, you're literally accepting that you are a slave to an elite who creates this world. That's what you're accepting. Why would you want to accept that? If you, and this is kind of what inspired, if you will, why I thought we should talk about these points today, it being Easter and everything, is the symbolism of, I am such a loving parent. I took my only child and I sacrificed them on behalf of all you fucks who are so fucking retarded. You can't even love the thing that gives you life. You're so dumb. You have to be, I have to do a blood sacrifice and sacrifice my own child in your face and make you, remind you of it every fucking day. It's because you can't possibly fathom that you should be grateful that you've been given this opportunity to be in existence. Who would do that to their child? And isn't it interesting, isn't that what the elite are asking everyone to do to save all the old people from COVID?
shit.
Right? Sacrifice your children, make them wear masks, make them sit in cubicles and shit. Make them basically like, I mean, think about it. Going to school now is really fully like you're just in an office job now. You're just sitting at your desk on your little computer. You don't talk to anybody.
Like imagine
It's like
even just,
full on, like no doubt.
it's
You
kind of
go
like what
from
Jake was
school
saying.
to that, it's the same.
It's kind of like what Jake was saying is like, to deny destiny is you have to deny what you believe in. It's like if you actually believe in school for socialization, you just remove the socialization of it.
Right. So what argument do you have now? Well, if I don't put my kids in school, they won't be able to socialize. Like, do you know what school is like now? There's no socialization. And I know because I talked to some of these kids. They're like, they said it's, what's the word the kid used? He said it's like hell.
Oh shit.
How old was the kid?
He was like 7th grade.
Okay.
Yeah, I spoke into
Wow.
like ninth grade, 8th grade, and they say it's like prison.
Yeah.
I don't know
Mhm.
which ones. Yeah.
And it's like he's like, you have to, the only recess they have is they walk around single file, socially distanced around the school together for 15 minutes and go right back to their classroom, and they never leave that room during the day. And they have to wear a mask and they have the little shields and everything, and the teacher talks at the front of the class and the teachers come and rotate out.
Okay, so now for everyone listening to this, would you want to be in that situation yourself? Fuck no. We know that. But now are you willing to just accept that? Because that's now reality for millions of kids, teenagers, people that are going to become the future of our society. That's their fucking reality. And if you have any bit of care left within you, then fucking step up with us and let's sort this out.
Yeah.
Because we have the answer to it, and kids don't need to go to school.
Because
The whole reason this is happening, is because the economic system is not effective.
Yes.
The elite are crashing everything and getting more control because the system's not working for them anymore. It started in 2008, right? They're just trying to maintain that control. So they're locking everybody down so they can maintain. So your acceptance of the system that you've benefited from all this time is what's putting these children in this situation. Right? So
Mhm.
you can't say like, oh, it's not my responsibility. It's like you're literally benefiting from it. So it's one thing when you're not aware, but becoming aware of it, it's like, now what are you going to do?
See, and that's the whole, well, to say the first thing I was saying, it's like the argument that comes up is like, well, I need to like figure out my own shit before, I got to be financially good until I can help other people. It's like, that's why Technosphere was created as a business. It's so that you can support yourself, and the way you support yourself financially is by making a difference in the world. Right? That's why it was created that way. And so extrapolating on what Cameron was just saying, it's like, then you will grow up and be that old person that you're complaining about now, because you're probably that person who's like, generally speaking, the people who are like, fuck the lockdowns. Like, what's the point? Like, nobody cared about old people anyways. Then you're going to be the old people that are relying on.
Wait till you're old later. Yeah.
Right. You're relying on these kids that you don't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
To help your ass.
Yeah, that's so funny. Remember, like,
You weren't
I don't
laughing,
know if you
liar.
what.
You're saying it's funny, but you weren't laughing, Drake.
Do you remember when, like, because like I've had this experience where being in school where our grade was required to do some bullshit in order to pass, or like whatever. We all had to participate in some stupid shit.
Yeah, we had to do like line dancing in like 2 years. We had to do like,
whatever, right?
Wacky stuff.
Then,
yeah.
Then
For phys ed.
Then the next year, it's like those kids didn't have to do it, and feeling so fucking like
Relieved?
bent out of shape out of that because they weren't subjected to the same bullshit that you were subjected to. Like that's what I see is like right now, large scale. We had to wear masks. Well, you can't wear a mask. Like that's what it's gonna fucking turn into. Is like we were subjected to all this bullshit in the world. Like it's only fair that everyone gets the bullshit.
That's a great point. That's
Wow.
really good.
But it's like it's how we exist in
Spitefulness.
Yeah. Mitch
But
gets it.
It's funny because I always like reflect back to that point of treat others the way you want to be treated. It's just in accordance with reality. Like if you instead of giving water to a tree, you give piss to a tree or a plant, it's going to output differently because it's going to give as it has received. In other words, humans as well, right? We are going to give as we have received. So that's why you should give as you want to receive, because that person is going to give to you based off what they received. Right? So just to reword that again, like just to say that again, we are going to give as we have received. The person in front of you is going to give to you as they have received. Therefore, you should give as you want to receive, because whatever you give to that person, they're going to give it back to you. Right? And so that's why, in essence, what that looks like is, okay, now you have to let go of all the memories of abuse. You have to forgive yourself for all the things that were created inside of you that make you want to hurt others or be spiteful towards others or to take away from others so that you can have, or feel like because I don't see it and because it's not in my immediate environment, therefore I shouldn't care about it, because that's what created the life that you complain about today. Specifically, the parts that you complain about was created from the same form of thinking that you're accepting now. And it feels right. It's like, somebody hit your car and they were like, haha, fuck you, like whatever. And then you watch their car get hit. You're caught in your face. That's what you get. But that doesn't fix the fact that your car's fucked up. Right? And so if you consider what that looks like for yourself, it's way harder. It is harder. But it actually brings about benefit if you focus on, okay, how do I remove these points for myself? And then when somebody tries to be spiteful towards me, and then something spiteful happens towards them, and I laugh at them, let me stop that whole train of bullshit. Let me support that person to see what they're doing and to release those memories of why they wanted to be spiteful towards me, so that something bad doesn't happen to them. And so they don't do that to other people. And that's how we created relationships that we don't want to avoid our whole time. Because I remember growing up and just watching my parents like want to avoid each other, right? And like I just wanted to avoid my parents. I didn't want my parents to walk in like when I'm playing video games and all that stuff, because they're just going to nag me and nag me and nag me, and they weren't going to support me to understand, right? They're just like, you shouldn't be doing that, you should be doing something else. Sick. Okay. Great. I'm right back where I started, right? Where the point is, everybody who's trying to live by principle, or sorry, everybody who's saying they follow principle isn't living by principle. And the flip side of it is people just think God isn't real, religion is bullshit, therefore we shouldn't follow principle, but they are following a principle, and their principle is your emotions are God. Your emotions are what creates everything. Your emotions is what should be held on the highest pedestal. And that's what I was saying way earlier of like why people are afraid of salespeople is because they're brainwashed. We're all brainwashed, but brainwashed about this particular point of my emotions is what determines my decision making. And because we know that, we know that salespeople can manipulate that.
It's like that guy can get a little bit he gets too much direction over me.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
But it's because
the good salesperson makes you feel like you actually want it.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, but I mean, think about it. That's how all of us make decisions. So the elite, those who benefit the most from the system, they're doing that all the time, constantly. That's exactly why everybody believes there's a pandemic.
We'll defend that, right? Because we have so low information processing ability. We'll defend the fact that Bernie Sanders says we should,
well, they'll defend it because it's like, you don't want to believe that your choices are being made for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, no, I'm in control. So it's like sort of defending it so you can kind of save face in a way.
Mm-hmm.
But then that shows even again how we're all responsible. We're accepting it. We're allowing it. Mm-hmm. Right. And what we're suggesting is take that responsibility for yourself, become persuasive, learn what are the principles that would actually create a world that's best for all, learn how to live those from yourself. And part of that will be in that application of it would be you supporting other people to understand, to develop, and you have to develop your communication ability to do that, to be able to persuade people of it. So we're not just saying go and be a nice person. We're saying learn, remove all the stuff from the past. By the way, there was a video I wanted to bring up before I forget, changing the character of the world.
Nice.
Right. That's a really good one from Bernard Pullman. I think I have it on my YouTube channel, but you could probably just search it on YouTube and there's probably multiple uploads of it, but it's called Changing the Character of the World. That one's a really good one that goes into the point of like, if you have a child who goes to bed hungry every night or who doesn't have enough, how they develop the character of somebody who wants to get back at the system. Right. I mean, and that's what we're seeing right now. So clearly, all these young people who are just wanting to destroy shit and they don't know they don't have a solution. They're not even interested in the solution. They don't care about solutions. They don't care about solutions any more than anybody who's not out there protesting cares about solutions.
Like, comment, share, and subscribe if you don't know what the solution is. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you do know what the solution is. And like, comment, share, and subscribe.
Like and comment if Jesus is risen. Right? Comment if you believe Jesus is risen.
Or if he's not risen, and give us your reasoning.
Comment. I keep seeing this thing, it is finished. Do y'all see that on Friday? I saw that on Twitter everywhere. All the Christian people are posting, it is finished. And it's like something that means like Jesus, he was crucified. Now it's already done. Like he's already accomplished everything. He's already coming back. Like imagine it's like you start a soccer game and like the captain breaks his leg, like right first 5 minutes of the game. And you're like, it's done. We won, guys. We won. You're like, what? What are you talking about?
Scoring goals against you. You're like, nope, don't have to worry about it.
It's done. And the level of it's interesting because I always see people say, oh, these leftists, like the progressive people, right? It's just like a religion. Liberalism is just like a religion. And it's like, but a religious person saying that, not seeing, it's like, yes, the religious part is stupid. You're not actually having a real solution for anything. It's just, you take Black Lives Matter and you change all the symbols, and now you're a Christian. Change all the symbols again, now you're an atheist. You change
God
them all
doesn't
again.
discriminate, but he does discriminate against non-believers.
But you
that
know
was
what I
like
mean?
that was a confusing thing for me in Islam. It was like all like, you know, we're, at the end of the day we're all human, like all that stuff, but non-believers will burn in hell.
I mean, if God was so powerful, why wouldn't he just create people with perfect knowledge?
Yeah.
If you had perfect knowledge about reality, would you reject any kind of common sense of like a consequence?
No.
You just see it for what it is.
Wouldn't you be like, well, obviously if I do that, that would be stupid.
Yeah.
If I do that, so I'm not going to do that. I'll do this instead. I can see what the consequence is. The only reason you would do things that don't make sense is if you literally don't understand what's going to happen. Look around at the world. Who really understands anything? Virtually no one understands, you know, and I've been reading all these books on string theory, like we've been talking about. And it's so fascinating because at the end of the day, even still, this is like the cutting edge of physical research into what is reality, right? And they're like, we have not been able to test really any of this at all. So it's really just a theory and we really don't know. But we really are pretty sure, we're thinking it's going to be. So even at the most cutting edge level of physics, they don't know what the fundamental nature of reality is. So what does that tell you about their understanding of viruses, of anything, of human nature, of what's possible? So if anybody tries to say, well, but the experts all agree that the virus is this or this is that or whatever, or climate change or whatever. Okay. What do the scientists agree and know and have proven to themselves sufficiently is the most fundamental aspect of reality? And they'll say, well, they don't know that. I mean, come on, how can you know what the most fundamental thing about reality? Come on. And yet all the other stuff that is built upon that, suddenly you know something there. And so that really shows you no one really knows. No one is really certain. But at the end of the day, what is the starting point of each person?
Great.
Starting point is survive. I have to survive at all costs. And what we're suggesting is if we had a system that made sure everybody had what they needed, education, food, shelter, all those things, and also didn't restrict people's ability to make decisions. It's like, oh, that's not possible. What are you saying if you say that's not possible?
Saying you're limited and stupid.
Yeah, you're just not creative.
Yeah.
So
You're saying you don't
if
care.
everybody on the planet was
Yeah.
educated effectively, that wouldn't be better?
Yeah.
If every child had an equal vocabulary, if every child understood everything that there was to understand.
Well,
if one
well,
person
who's
can
who's
understand-
who's going to sit with all those children and make sure they know all this stuff?
See the responsibility that is implied.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you'd have to have some way of making sure every child was able to learn. And yeah, we have all of that. We have all of the answers to all of it. All we're looking for is people who are like, you know what? I'm not going to have any more excuses anymore. I'm going to step up. I'm going to take responsibility. I'm going to take responsibility first for within myself of the parts where, like you were talking about earlier, that things that I've accepted that was done to me, I'm not going to continue passing that on to somebody else. I'm going to use common sense. I'm going to question what I accept and allow. And I'm going to look at what's the consequences, what's the outflows of the things that I accept and allow. And how can I participate in redesigning the system that we live in so that it's actually best for everybody, including myself? How could you have any objection to that whatsoever? Now, it's easy to have an objection to that and to be like, well, but that doesn't make sense. Anybody who says, well, that's not possible. Okay, well, let me ask you a question. Do you believe it's possible for Jesus to come to earth and die and then resurrect after 3 days and then fly off to heaven? Because if you say yes to any of those parts, your opinion literally doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. If you say, oh, well, you have to pray 5 times to God because otherwise he's like going to be displeased with you, your opinion doesn't matter anymore. As soon as you've accepted something that fucking retarded, while
Or
also
also-
accepting,
also-
but children have to go to bed hungry and all these problems and be abused and everything, and I can't do anything about that because God, he's going to be taking care of it. What were you going to say, Asa?
Or if you believe that your imagination creates reality and you get what you want out of life.
And then you
That's
also
what-
complain about things.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ever, even one fraction of a moment within yourself, you complain about anything.
Yeah.
You're
If you believe that,
dishonest.
if you believe that, like, you as an individual are the one creating your reality, and there's any point within you that doesn't like what you have, there's any point within you that wants something different than what you have. Come on. You have to realize that it's like when you ever see a kid, and I think we all did this as kids, right? So it's not like a particular kid, it's just children. It's like you start playing a game, right? And I experienced this a lot with my cousin because he had like a lot of frustration as a child, right? When he was like 4 or 5, whatever, he'd be like, okay, let's play this game. Then I'd start playing, and then he'd be like, no, you have to play it like this. No, like, you don't get to do that. Like, I get to do that. It's like he's trying to control the other people playing the game so he can get what he wants. It's like, that's what everyone's trying to do. It's kind of like what Cameron was saying, is like, how do you know that a rock isn't self-aware, right? It's like, oh, no, that rock's not self-aware. You guys aren't self-aware. I'm the God in my reality. I'm the main character in my video game, kind of thing. So I'm the creator. And then you just create like a shitty video game, basically. You're accepting like a totally fucking shitty video game where you can't do anything. You know, like in Sims or GTA, you put in the code, you get like millions of dollars. But no, like, you're okay with nothing. Like, you're okay with the shitty house and like shitty cars, right? No one plays the Sims like that, do they? Now the idea of your boy Jesus Christ coming back, his whole point was that, okay, you know, the part that we always bring back up, and the reason we always mention it is because it's like the most overlooked point of, did I not say ye are gods? Right? Those that believe in me, believe in what I say.
Do your laws not say that?
Is it not written in your law?
Isn't that? Yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah.
Those that believe in me shall do the works that I do, and even greater works than I they shall do. It's like, he's literally saying it, and it's so funny because it's so easy to read, take the information that justifies your self-interest, your survival, your greed, and anything that requires you to change, you just I didn't read that part. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, you know, it got lost in translation, like some excuse, right? Now, considering that point, right? And this is going back to what Drake was saying. I want to just rehash that point of love God with all your heart, all your mind, and all your soul, or all your might and all your soul. Anyways, he's saying that you are a God. So consider God as you. And he's saying, love yourself with all your might, with all your heart and mind and soul, and then treat others the way you've learned to treat yourself. It's like, doesn't it just put everything together to return to the Father? It says, from dust to dust. You came from the earth, you will return to the earth.
Even considering that point of like the system as God, right? Putting together a system that you've put in actual love into, you know, not just the feeling, but like actual consideration, actual like looking at, like, which is the very first principle that we have, right? The principle of what is best for all, right? It's actually considering all things within creation. If you were loving that, what you've created as that system with everything within you, every ounce of you, and really that really requires you to go that extra step of understanding everything that's here, educating yourself on literally everything around you. But that shows your love, doesn't it? Like you care. That shows how much you care. Like imagine the father that like is absent. They don't care about their kids like upbringing or well-being or like the
Oh
things
shit,
that their
that's
kids
like
are
God
working on.
right now, right?
Yeah, they don't care, right?
It's like if the father is act like God, like look at how he's let his children just fuck around and like
Right.
become drug addicts and shit.
Right. But when you actually care, you're interested. Like, what is this that you drew?
If you're a real father, would you allow one of your children to abuse the other child?
Of course not.
You'd
What would
intervene.
what would that teach the child who's being abused?
That you don't care about them.
And
And
that
that
they
abuse
can,
is acceptable
Yeah.
So why does God allow the elite to abuse everyone through the system?
because there's no God. That's a higher being.
because there ain't no God. Because that would be logically impossible
Yeah.
if you were a true. I mean, imagine you're a Christian and you're up there on the Sunday and you're like, yes, God is the Father and He is embodying the ultimate Father. And I say, okay,
he
so
never makes a
if,
mistake.
so if my son it gets frustrated and hits my daughter, I should just allow that, right? You're like, no, of course, that's not what a father would do. He would tell the son, stop that. That's not acceptable, which I've had to do. But why wouldn't God do that? Well, but you have to understand, like God gives us all free choice and free will, and you have to, and so okay, so I should give my son free choice, and he can just hit his sister. That's acceptable. If he gets frustrated, if she has something he wants, should I allow that? Well, no, of course. I mean, that would just be abusive. But I should give him the free choice, right? Just like the elite are given the free choice to abuse everybody, and literally children with flies buzzing all over their wounds and shit, like dying of poverty and infectious diseases and all this kind of shit, and diseases of poverty. I mean, because why? So somebody else can sit in a fucking air conditioned room and like watch the numbers on a screen go up that they don't even fucking need. For what reason? Not to mention all of the other shit that's done to children that you won't hear about on the news because you're not allowed to hear about it. Right? The sick shit that people do who are actually benefiting from the system, which is the actual God. It's the God that we accept. It's the extension of ourselves. In the same way that any piece of technology we use is an extension of ourselves. The systems that run the resource distribution and the economies and so forth of our world are extensions of us, of our nature. And then we sit here and accept and allow that. And then we think that we're somehow worthy of God sending his child, his only son, to be crucified and killed to forgive us. How can we ever be forgiven for allowing such a thing? Like, why shouldn't you be the one up there saying it was wrong that Jesus was crucified? Name one Christian who ever says that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was wrong. It was evil that he was crucified, and I reject that, and I don't worship that.
Right.
I worship what Jesus said, which was common sense, which is we should love our neighbor as ourselves. And the most important point, and I don't know how to get this across to everybody who doesn't have TechnoTutor because they can't process it, but if you don't have a system that reflects your inner, like Drake was saying, that actual love and appreciation you have, and you haven't put in any work to make that system exist, then there's no way you love your neighbor as yourself. You're lying.
Right. Like this system is a reflection of what's inside of you.
Right. Like you can't say you love your neighbor as yourself if you aren't putting everything of yourself into creating a system that ensures that all of your neighbors have what they need. And that doesn't require communism. That doesn't require socialism. That doesn't require authoritarian dictatorship and tyranny and all of those things. And if you look at it, that is what we already have. We already have a system that based on where you're born decides whether you live or die, whether you have a life that is shit or a life that's pretty good or a life that's amazing, right? So when Jesus was talking about he's going to come again, right? I'm going to have Asif, I know you have some points to share with this, but what does it mean when we say Jesus is going to come again? Because we agree with Jesus's principles. We're more Christian than any Christian on the face of the earth because we're actually willing to live our, let's call it faith, that if everyone had perfect understanding and knowledge of who they are and the consequences of their actions, that they would do what is best, right? So if Jesus, a woman, right?
Amen. And a woman.
And a woman, right? So let's have the final ultimate spell. Let's put the final nail in this coffin so he never comes back on another fucking Easter Sunday. The only second coming that's ever going to happen is what, Asif?
Everybody looks to Jesus as the leader, but he was just following. He was just following. He said it. He said, "Become the living word." He lives the word as flesh. What he was saying is, don't get missiled by what's the color of Jesus' skin, right? How many like you guys ever hear that? Like, no, he was black, he was brown, he was. Who cares?
I love when they argue whether Santa was black or white. I mean, like, holy
It's
shit.
a completely imaginary figure.
That's crazy, yeah. And so, what he was saying is, I'm an example of the living word of give as you want to receive. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Don't just give to people, create a system that gives, which is teaching. Don't just give somebody a fish, teach them in a fish. Jesus existed as his messages, not because he was a whatever colored skin male that had, was he like nappy headed or what, did he have long curly, like who gives a fuck? That's not what he was saying. He exists as the word. So Jesus coming back is his message being lived again. And that's what this is. We're not religious. We're not putting Jesus on a pedestal. We're just like, oh, look, that guy like treated other people like he wanted to be treated. And it makes sense to me, myself personally, that makes sense for me in my environment. If I treat Melat the way I would want to be treated, she in turn treats me back. If I'm spiteful and resentful towards her, she would do the same back to me. So, oh, okay. So the common sense is, yeah, that does make sense. Okay. Yeah, but what about all the people who will, in a world that's best, like there's going to be lazy people anyways. And then I remember Melat a while back, she had that argument. She's like, not everybody's going to want to be able to like do stuff. Like I would just be lazy. And I was like, okay, well, if you were just laying on the couch doing nothing, watching Netflix, and I was working my butt off cleaning the house, and your dad and your brother came over and they were cleaning the house, and we were all cleaning the house. I got the bathroom. There's like a 2-story house, right? I got the bathroom. You got those 3 bedrooms. You got the master bedroom, and you just saw us slaving away. Just by slaving away, I mean like working up the sweat, really putting in work. How would you feel? She'd be like, I'd feel guilty, but I'm not also giving equally. She didn't say it like that, but she said, I'd feel guilty. I would get up and work too. Exactly. It's like we deny ourselves of the common sense of what we would actually do in a situation just to justify that we can't, right? That we wouldn't, but we would. Ken, what were you gonna say?
Well, I was just gonna say, like, being lazy. Your analogy is really good because it's like the environment of other people. You're like, why would I want to be lazy? But it's like, if from the age, from the moment you were born, everyone actually appreciated you and taught you about reality and told you everything that you could learn, and you had all these opportunities to explore reality and develop things and understand, and why would you want to be lazy? Like, that'd be like saying I went to fucking the biggest candy store on the planet, and I'm like, oh, I just don't want any candy. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, why would you be like, oh, there's nothing here for me? Laziness is a function of a world that's not best.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you would be forced into doing things. It's just like, otherwise what you're saying is we have to then force everybody into doing stuff. So we don't want to create a world where everybody has what they need, because we'd have to force people to do stuff because they'd be lazy. So what we need to do is, instead of creating a world that's best for everybody, we just need to have a world where no one has what they need. So that forces people to do stuff. Let's just have the same situation, but everyone has what they need. Let's just start with that. Okay? There's already lazy people, so there might still be lazy people. Who gives a shit? Well, I'd have to do all the work. No, you could just be one of the lazy ones. Don't worry about it. Like, we'll just create a system to make sure everybody has what they need. The labor required to do that would be very minimal. It can be done in a fun, creative way. and we have lots of technology, so I'm not really concerned about it, then you can still continue to be lazy. Well, I mean, I wouldn't want to be lazy. I'd want to do, okay, exactly. So what the fuck are you saying? Do you know what I mean? It's like, and I understand where Mela was coming from, because that's an objection a lot of people have. But the reality is, if you were born from a very young age in a system where the standard was, no, we do what's best, and you're impulsed with that, and you're taught these principles from a young age, your whole perspective, your whole outlook on things would be totally different.
That's like everyone kind of has that objection, but you see it in children. Like they want to, you give them the rag, they'll clean up their spill, no problem.
They want to play.
Exactly.
Life would be playing. Even labor and work would be playing when it's done from the right starting point. Right. And so I think what we want to do though is, unless there's any other points, like let's wrap it up, because I want to.
I gotta slap this up because
slap it up. Slap up those spells.
So the point to consider is we didn't have the technology to actually implement the word of Jesus until now. The reason, consider this point. The message of Jesus is right here. But Kevin Trudeau makes a great point. He says, what you need, it's all right here, but you just can't see it. It's hidden in plain sight, but you can't see it. Why? Because you were dumbed down through the schooling system. They put in a specific method of reading that basically doesn't teach you how to read. That's why you can't see it. That's why all of his teachings now are based around vocabulary and having your own personal dictionary and these things.
Jesus said you have to remove the beam from your eye, right?
Yeah.
Before you can judge another person. So that's the problem, is everyone has a beam in their eye still, right? It's like
the word understand.
It's a Bible literally in your eyeball.
And the word understand means to be able to perceive the intended meaning of something, of a word, right? So the reason why people killed Jesus is they listened to his message and they didn't have the common sense or the processing ability or the vocabulary or the understanding of words in order to be like, oh yeah, that would make sense. They were like, no, hold up. So they killed him. But
Dude,
now,
and ultimately, was it the elite that wanted to kill him? It was the crowds that fucking demanded it. Like, go back and read it. So it's like his whole point was people are so fucking dumbed down. You see, imagine he was willing to sacrifice himself to show everybody that point. And it took 2,000 years for all of us to get back and realize, oh, it's the crowds that will fucking bring it, that will implement it, not the.
Well, how many people do you actually think are making that connection between,
Right.
So it's like, imagine that Jesus stood for that point of, look, I know what's going to happen. They're going to kill me because that's just the math. Like, that's just, I look at society and it's very clear what's going to happen. Just like if you looked at right now, I know that if I were to say certain things on YouTube or Facebook, whatever, I would get canceled, right? It's like predictable, right? So he was the living proof of that. And he was saying, hey, you guys need to understand this shit, right? So the second coming of Jesus, his message has been here. Just look at the trees. Just look at the sun. Just look at the soil, right? They all follow that message. We just couldn't see it until now. Now we have the ability in a systematic fashion to ensure everybody sees that, which is, let's put the ability to develop your understanding and become like a child again into a technology that anybody can use. And through that, what we're looking for is the people who are willing to commit to developing their processing ability, developing themselves to live by principles so that we can all rise to the occasion together of being able to challenge the elite, the people who are keeping everything in place, right? And the crowds. But what that will require of you is you to be far greater than you are now, far more skilled. And the way that you do that is by using the tools that we're suggesting, because you will change in ways that you didn't think was possible, right? I don't know if you guys ever had that of like, so like, how am I going to change? Like, am I going to be able to do this with tech? It's like, you're going to be able to do so many things that you can't even think of right now. Right.
But think like about Jesus, like what he was able to do. I'm not saying you could be able to do those things, but
he did.
And he said that we could do it too.
The reality is Jesus was a
Right.
high vocabulary, right? That's all it was. Jesus had a high vocabulary. You don't. you want to actually follow Jesus' message and live his words and spread his message, you have to become equal to the message. You can't spread his message by saying shit you memorized from the Bible. That's like literally thinking you know calculus because you memorize shit to do your homework. That's the average Christian's level of ability to live Christianity is literally their same ability to live the shit that they learned in school. They just memorized it. They're not actually doing it.
So Jesus was a friggin' conversational master, man. If you want to be able to hand it to your friends, nail it to your parents who always thought they were living by Jesus, but they wanted you to do it, so you reacted and you're like, screw that, but you want to throw it back in their face, then join us. Self-Perfected, self-perfected.com. Like, subscribe, share, comment, tell a friend. Because at the end of the day,
Save yourself.
it's
Save me some leftovers.
we need a shirt with that. That's good. So this one will be called the spellcaster phenomenon. No, this will be called
Rise
Definitely
up.
not.
Rise up.
Rise up, stand up.
Rise up, comrades.
And then you do this.
And then you just wave. You just go like this.
This is our symbol. Imagine there was a crowd of us and we're like, all right, everybody, throw your hand in the throw the symbol in the air. We're all like,
Hi.
cool. Go to the website, self-perfected. Join the Facebook group.
Be part of the
And-
second coming of Jesus.
Yeah. Become equal to him. So we can
Create
actually
heaven on
create
earth.
something amazing here. Yeah. Rock and roll, baby.
All right. See y'all next week.